It's easy to think of history as steady forward progress, but it's more like climbing a ladder. If you're not careful, you can fall right off, hurt yourself, and end up back where you started. And I think a great way to demonstrate this is by taking another look at the Disney company, which, under its current policies, would have fired Walt Disney. As you might know, Mickey Mouse was not Walt Disney's first major character. He actually produced a series beforehand about Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. But the studio who bought the rights to Oswald quickly decided that the price Disney wanted to produce Oswald Rabbit cartoons was much more than if they produced the character themselves. So they essentially fired Walt Disney, took some of his animators, and started producing their own Oswald Rabbit cartoons. Walt Disney responded by making up a new character, who could be the focus of all his ideas and talent, called Mickey Mouse. 80 years later, Mickey is the one that everybody knows. Now, in the entertainment business, that story is pretty widespread. But the lesson it teaches is easy to forget. The people who were in charge of the studio that was buying from Walt Disney at the time didn't realize how important the creator was to the property. And it's easy to blame them and think that it's just because they were arrogant or not smart, but I think there's a lot more to it. In a video we made called The Eye of the Storm, we talked about how it seems like we judge movies and art by how good they are, but that's actually an illusion, where the quality of those things comes on top of background feelings that are caused by the fame and other things surrounding popular movies. And the quality only breaks the tie, meaning that when we see something that isn't famous already or doesn't have those other things, we can't actually judge it, which makes brilliant art and ideas get ignored for years. And what we have here is another example of an illusion caused by context, where people don't realize that they aren't judging things accurately. In this case, people who are high-level decision makers at entertainment companies. Because in the position they're in, they only see material that's already been published or made by an established creator or passed through other gatekeepers. This means that it will essentially always have a basic level of competence. And as a result, it teaches those decision makers that creative work is much easier than it actually is. Just like how if you've never seen an assembly line, you don't realize how much work goes into making cars. And thus, they saw Oswald Rabbit, figured that they could hire someone cheaper to make the seemingly simple and easy short films that Walt Disney was giving them, and fired him. They then learned the hard way that just because something is simple, it doesn't mean it's easy to produce, because simplicity is only part of the equation. There also has to be accuracy, meaning it's emotionally effective, and originality, and many other things. And the Oswald Rabbit shorts they produced at a lower cost didn't have those things without Walt Disney. While Disney's own company, with his own new character that he controlled, did have those things, because his experience and talent was behind it. Disney even went on to buy classic properties and make all of them successful. And that, having the talent to make the properties work, is a major reason why the Walt Disney Company became what it did. But now we're looking at something different. And the decision makers today don't have the experience he had. And as far as I can tell, they have the exact same outlook that led that studio to fire Walt Disney himself. You can see it. They took George Lucas's outline for the new Star Wars trilogy and threw it away. And not only that, they decided not just to hire another filmmaker, but to actually insert themselves into the process of writing the story. And this is where things went off the rails. Because as part of that process, they decided that they were going to go in a different direction from the way these movies normally proceed. And there you had people who essentially had only seen finished work that looked neat and easy, trying to make something themselves, without any actual experience. And in that case, all the problems came in. Because when you actually do it, things aren't neat and easy. You're presented with a long list of decisions, with multiple possible answers, and you need experience to know which to pick. But you don't realize that those options are even there, and hard to understand, until you're in the process from the beginning. And this is especially true when you're abandoning a template, trying to change the characteristics of a villain, introduce new heroes, or bring in characters with backgrounds that people haven't seen before. To make those work, you need to understand the fundamentals especially well. If you don't, you're going to learn about lots of mistakes that you didn't know could be made, and you're going to learn the hard way. This is what happened with the new trilogy. The first movie skated by on nostalgia, the appreciation of seeing the franchise back with the characters that fans loved, which filled in for the emotional highs that the actual story wasn't properly set up to deliver. And once the nostalgia wore off, people started to see just how flawed the films were, and things went full circle. I think the lesson here is important. Art is not just a product, and the business of art is about a lot more than owning an object or a trademark. It's about who owns them and how they're handled. Those things require time, passion, and talent. Those are the things that are ultimately the most valuable. And it's something we all should remember. Thanks for your time, and stay tuned for more.